Jerusalem, 1099. Smoke drifts through shattered streets. Blood-soaked stone where crusaders carve their path. Beneath the Temple Mount, torches flicker against damp walls as a brotherhood descends into hidden chambers. They are not searching for relics of gold or bones of saints. What they unearth is stranger, more dangerous scrolls inked with Hebrew letters that burn like fire even in shadow. The Knights Templar would carry this treasure across centuries, a knowledge forbidden and intoxicating. Cabala, not the mystical philosophy taught openly, but the other current, the practical Cabala. The shadow branch, where words themselves are weapons and symbols are living gates. These texts, whispered of angels bound, demons invoked, clay shaped into giants that walk, and a mirrored tree, the Tree of Death that feeds on the shadow of creation. Legends say in Prague, a rabbi would one day inscribe a metruth upon the brow of a clay man, and the golem would rise, pulsing with unnatural life. Others speak of adepts scarred by glyphs seared into skin, of pacts sealed with unholy names. And always the knowledge traces back to that moment when armored men emerged from the Temple Mount carrying something no blade could match. What if the true legacy of the Templars was not banking or empire, but forbidden technology of spirit? What if circles, cubes, and Hebrew sigils are not symbols of faith, but locks and keys in a cosmic machinery? And if the Tree of Death still grows in silence, feeding on our ignorance, then the question is, who among us dares read its roots? Evil rarely thrives in chaos. Power is not the scream of storm but the geometry of silence, precise and deliberate. The Cabala is not merely a book of mystic poetry or philosophical musings. It is architecture, a cosmic design etched into the very bones of creation, a map of both ascent and descent. When the Knights Templar lowered torches into the crypts beneath the Temple Mount, what they encountered was not relic but blueprint. They found the system. At its heart lies the Tree of Life, 10 Sephiroth, radiating like spheres on branches of light. To the faithful, this was a diagram of divine emanation. Kether, the crown of pure light, down to Malkuth, the kingdom manifest. It is architecture of order, the scaffolding upon which creation was hung. Yet shadows fall in every structure. Beneath the luminous tree waits its mirror, the clip path, the husks, the Tree of Death. Where Sephiroth shine, husks fester. Where light gives, shadow consumes. This inverted tree is no less real. It is architecture of corruption, just as precise, just as binding. The Cabala whispers that every force has twin. Beauty inverted is vanity, mercy twisted into weakness, wisdom rotted into deceit. The shells of the clip path cling to creation, feeding on imbalance. To name them is to risk summoning them, yet the texts record their legions. Gamaliel, the obscene ones. Samiel, venom of God. Lilith, night specter. The architecture is dual, and the Templars, by uncovering scrolls, held in their hands plans for both cathedral and crypt. Symbols anchor this design. The circle is barrier and womb, container of force. The cube is stability, but also prison, 6 faces enclosing spirit. The hexagram is portal, 2 triangles interlocked, ascent and descent, heaven and hell. Each symbol is not metaphor, but mechanism. Inscribe it, trace it, speak its hand, the architecture responds. Abraham of Granada learned this with pain when sigils burned into his flesh, each line binding him more tightly to forces he could not master. The Golem of Prague is not fairy tale, but proof of architecture's precision. Clay was not enough. A ritual circle had to be drawn, letters inscribed, breath invoked. The word Amet truth became code that activated structure. Erase one letter, leaving Met death, and the system collapsed. This is not legend, it is demonstration. The Cabala functions like software written in sacred glyphs, each letter instruction, each sigil switch. The architecture of evil is not chaos, it is design executed without mercy. The Templars recognized this. Their order was oath-bound, cloaked in secrecy, obsessed with symbols. They returned from East not only with relics but with rituals. Their chapels bore strange engravings, their seals inscribed with dual figures, 2 knights on 1 horse, circle enclosing cross. They became custodians of architecture that could raise empires or destroy them. Some say their power in banking, law, and war was not mere discipline, but alignment with occult design. The Cabala became silent engine behind throne. Sensory fragments betray the truth. Picture a chamber lit by torches, knights kneeling as parchment unrolled, geometric diagrams glowing in firelight. Imagine whispers reciting divine names, each syllable shifting air, shadows bending along stone. Hear scratch of quill inscribing circle, ink glistening like blood. The architecture was never abstract. It lived in ritual, breath, stone, flesh. Dante hinted at this architecture in his Divine Comedy. His hell was no chaos, but ordered descent. 9 circles, each punishment precise. Geometry woven into torment. This was Cabalistic logic transmuted into Christian poetry. Inferno mirrored, clip hath structured, layered, merciless. The pilgrim descended through system as adept through Sephiroth, learning that evil was not random, but encoded. Modern echoes reveal the architecture persists. Corporate logos inscribe hexagrams, institutions house cubes, national seals encode circles. Rituals repeat oaths, sworn, contracts signed, graduates crowned with mortarboard cube. The symbols remain because architecture endures. Humanity performs liturgy daily without seeing scaffolding. Saturn rules time, Cabala rules structure. Together they form prison invisible because it looks like reality itself. To awaken is to glimpse scaffolding. To recognize that every gesture is ritual, every symbol command, every cycle architecture repeating. The Templars held forbidden treasure, not because it glittered, but because it revealed blueprint. The question is never if architecture rules, it already does. The question is who authors it and who kneels before it unaware. Symbols do not merely represent, they operate. To the Cabalist, letters are not dead marks, but living forces. Each one a gate, a spark, a blade. The Hebrew alphabet itself is ladder of fire, 22 steps, bridging unseen and seen. To carve a letter is to inscribe vibration. To speak, it is to ignite code. The Templars, descending into crypts of Jerusalem, did not merely find parchment, they uncovered language of the architecture itself. Consider the word Emet-Aleph, Mem, Toph truth. When carved on the forehead of clay giant, it breathes life, Res Aleph. Leaving Metathand, the creature collapses. 3 letters, yet they carry life and death. This is not metaphor. This is software encoded in language, sacred syllables as command lines in cosmic machinery. The golem is living proof. To speak is to bind, to inscribe is to summon. The circle, too, is more than geometry. It is shield, womb, barrier, prison. To step into circle is to step into boundary between worlds. Magicians etched it on floor with chalk, blood, salt. The line once drawn speaks command. Nothing crosses without consent, yet circle can trap as easily as protect. Abraham of Granada learned this when flames leapt from sigils he drew, circle burning into his flesh, scar seared as mark of pact unfulfilled. The circle spoke, not as metaphor, but as law. The cube embodies stability, 6 faces enclosing, anchoring spirit into form. But its perfection suffocates. To kneel before cube is to kneel before prison. Matter heavy as lead. Temples enshrine it, courts echo it, Masonic halls repeat it. Black cube in Mecca, cubes in corporate plazas. These are not art, but sigils commanding unconscious. The cube whispers Saturn's law. Form is final, spirit must bend. The hexagram, 2 triangles interlock, descends and descends simultaneously. One points upward, aspiration of man to heaven. The other downward, descent of power into matter. Combined, they are breach. Through this star forces cross, angels summoned, demons unbound. It is not merely Star of David painted on flags, it is portal. The Templars knew this. Their seals bore strange double crosses, secret hexagrams hidden in chapels. Each repetition was not symbol, but invocation. Metatron's cube, sacred geometry of interlocked circles and lines, hides platonic solids within. To gaze on it is to feel vertigo, as if staring into machinery of reality. It encodes not only form, but transformation. To inscribe it is to align mind with engine of creation. To misuse it is to open door that will not close. Cabalists warn that some adepts, staring too long, vanished into diagrams, their consciousness trapped in lattice. The symbol is not pictured, it is architecture folded into ink. Even the Hamza, palm with eye, functions beyond charm. It wards by gaze, palm raised like seal of refusal, yet carved on gates, painted on skin. It becomes sigil binding watcher to watched, to wear it unconsciously is to repeat command you did not author. Symbols speak whether or not you understand. The Templars recognized that power. They carved circles in stone, cubes into architecture, hexagrams into seals. Their cathedrals are geometry codified, arches echoing Sephiroth, spires pointing to Kether. Stained glass blazing with sigils, each mass, each chant was performance of symbols. Congregants believed they prayed to Christ, but geometry whispered Cabala. Sensory fragments reveal potency. The shimmer of candlelight across carved Hebrew, shadows trembling as if letters breathe. The oppressive silence, standing before black cube monument, weight pressing on chest. The dizziness of hexagram inscribed on floor, vision tilting as if falling inward. The warmth pulsing in palm, traced with Hamza. These are not illusions. They are effects of language operating. Dante understood symbolic law. His hell was language made flesh, each punishment sigil for sin, each circle glyph of inverted virtue. The words of sinners became chains, their rituals became prisons. The Divine Comedy is a cult diagram disguised as poem Sephiroth, inverted into Clipoth. Dante wrote with same code Templars uncovered. Modern life is saturated still. Corporate logos, mirror hexagrams, universities crown heads with black cubes, nations raise flags bearing stars and eyes. These are not aesthetic accidents. They're rituals disguised as design. Each repetition charges symbol further, embedding command deeper. Humanity bathes daily in language it does not read. To awaken is to decode. To see circle not only as shape, but as barrier. To see cube not only as box, but as shrine of Saturn. To see hexagram not as decoration, but as portal. The language of symbols does not vanish when ignored, continues to command. The only choice is blindness or literacy. So ask yourself, what symbols have you already bowed to today? Which circles hold you? Which cubes enclose you? Which stars burn above you unseen? Until you read language, you remain bound by its law. The letters still burn, the diagrams still hum, the architecture still speaks. Before ink could seal contracts, before coins rang in temples, there was blood. It is the oldest offering, the one price that both gods and demons always accept. Cabala does not ignore this truth, it encodes it. The Golem of Prague rose not because clay was molded, but because letters were inscribed with essence. Breath given, blood mingled with word. For life is never free. System demands payment, and blood is the coin. Legends whisper that Rabbi Judah Low, fashioning golem from river clay, wrote sacred syllables across its brow. But some say he pricked his own finger, smeared blood into letters, sealing pact. 4 letters without life remain ink, blood animates. Blood transmits. The clay giant stood because truth was written not only in language but in sacrifice. The word imit glowed red because flesh itself was cost. The Templars knew this too. Beneath Temple Mount they discovered not only diagrams but instructions. Practical Cabala demanded vitality. To summon angel or demon, to bind force, one did not speak alone, one offered. Sometimes animal, sometimes child, sometimes drop of one's own blood spilled into circle. Chronicles accuse Templars of obscene rites, mocking crucifix, drinking blood. Whether slander or truth, the charge reveals perception. Blood was currency of their power. Consider Abraham of Granada, burned by glyphs. His blood was not spilled on altarate, boiled beneath skin, scarred by geometry. The architecture demanded payment, and flesh paid. The Cabalists spoke of nefesh, the soul and blood, essence that feeds ritual. Every cut, every mark, every exhaustion after invocation, these were transactions, blood given, force received. The Zohar itself whispers paradox. Life flows in blood, yet demons drink it. Sacrifice stains, yet sanctifies. The husks of the cliphath hunger for essence, parasites feasting on vitality, each offering strength in shell. To give blood is to risk nourishing shadow, yet to withhold is to starve system itself. The adept walks razor edge. Sacrifice fuels both creation and corruption. Sensory fragments reveal the cost. The sudden nosebleed, after trance. Drop staining page, where glyph was drawn. The trembling hands after night of invocation, veins thinned, body drained. The clay beneath fingernails after shaping figure too long, skin raw and bleeding. The taste of iron in mouth upon waking, as if dream itself drank essence. These are not metaphors. They are receipts. Dante clothed this in allegory. His violent souls submerged in river of boiling blood, centaurs patrolling banks, arrows piercing those who tried to rise. Every violent act returned in red tide. The suicides transformed into bleeding trees, sap flowing as blood when branches snapped. The damned paid debt in crimson coin endlessly because every crime was transaction. Hell itself was bank of blood. Modern life masks the altar, but sacrifice endures. Workers bleed hours into contracts, vitality traded for wages. Students bleed years into debt, soldiers bleed bodies into soil. We no longer pour chalices on altars of stone, but time and life force drip daily into system. The 9-to-5 grind, the sleepless nights, the chronic fatigue, these are sacrifices, blood transmuted into hours. Saturn devours with clock, Cabala with glyph, system with contract. The blood flows unseen, but no less real. Occultists warn, blood given unconsciously strengthens husks. Every exhausted sigh, every wound ignored, every hour drained without awareness. These are offerings to shadows. The cliphath feed not only on slaughter, but on despair, repetition, silence. The parasite does not need dagger. It needs your routine. Your lifeblood flows whether you consent or not, yet paradox lurks. Conscious sacrifice transforms. The adept who pricks finger willingly, who burns candle knowing cost, reclaims authorship. Blood becomes pact, not theft. Energy becomes offering, not loss. Ritual without awareness enslaves. Ritual with awareness liberates. Even lead of Saturn can transmute when chosen. Even blood can sanctify when given, not taken. So ask yourself, how much have you already paid? Which rituals drained you? Which contracts drank? Which nights left you pale? How much of your blood flows into cube, into circle, into sigils you never meant to serve? The cult never ended. Its altars only changed shape. The chalice remains. The question is whether you pour by choice or bleed in ignorance. Every ritual is an agreement. Every invocation, a negotiation. The Cabala does not only describe the cosmos, it enforces its laws through pacts. Angels do not move without names. Demons do not depart without binding. Golems do not rise without inscription. Behind every miracle and every curse lies contract. And once written, once spoken, the pact cannot be undone without consequence. The Templars understood this. Their brotherhood was bound not merely by loyalty, but by oath secrets sealed in blood, obedience enforced by ritual vow. Chroniclers accuse them of swearing on skulls, of spitting on cross, of profaning sacred objects. Perhaps slander, but perhaps misdirection. What matters is not detail, but principle. Their power rested on contracts invisible to outsiders. They were soldiers, but more legal adepts, initiates of binding formulas. Cabalists taught that words themselves are contracts. To speak divine name is to invoke its authority, to draw angel into circle. To inscribe sigil is to pin force to parchment, binding it by lines and strokes. The word is law, and law is oath. To forget clause is to risk backlash. Legends whisper of adepts who stumbled, mispronounced syllable, skipped letter and were consumed. The contract enforced itself merciless. The story of Joseph della Reina proves the danger. He sought to hasten Messiah by summoning Samael and Lilith, binding them with sacred names. But his contract faltered, intentions split, and the forces broke free. He lived cursed, example to all. Pact half made is pact inverted. Even failure is binding. The law does not care for motive. Saturnian order enforces clause, even unto ruin. Modern contracts echo this. The oath in courtroom, hand on scripture, is not ceremony but pact. The judge in black robe, gavel striking, enforces clause like hammer sealing circle. The marriage vow, the pledge of allegiance, the signature on loan all are contracts written in invisible ink. Each binds soul to system, each extracts payment. The borrower thinks of money, but the pact pledges future hours, life force not yet lived. Debt is modern golem created by ink, fed by blood, bound by signature. Consider the architecture of banks. Marble halls, cube-like vaults, seals engraved above doors. They are not only businesses, they are temples of pact. Inside, words and numbers become chains as strong as iron. The client leaves with paper, yet invisible cords stretch into decades. Generations born into debt inherit contracts never signed. The pact transcends individual, becomes bloodline. Sensory fragments betray the truth. The scratch of pen across parchment, echoing like whisper in cavern. The cold weight in chest after signing, as if essence siphoned. The thud of gavel reverberating through courtroom, like spell-closing circle. The blinking cursor on digital screen where you click I agree, glowing as modern sigil. Each gesture charges contract, each consent feeds system. Dante mirrored this law. His deepest hell was not flames but ice, where traitors frozen, mouths unable to speak, oaths inverted. Judas Brutus, Cassius, condemned not for crime of passion, but for pact broken. Their punishment was contract eternal, bodies bound, law enforced beyond death. Hell itself was court of Saturn, contracts upheld in shadows. The Templars carried seeds of this system into Europe. From secret oaths to banking innovations, they wove pact into empire. When papal throne turned against them, it was not only greed, but fear. They had mastered contracts older than church itself. Their arrest on Friday the 13th was not end, only dispersal. Fragments of order bled into Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, banking houses. Each carried knowledge. Pacts rule the world, not swords. Occultists whispered the same. To summon you sign, to banish you seal. To break pact you pay. The astral does not forgive ignorance. Contracts enforce themselves. The unseen system feeds because humanity consents daily through signatures, through silence, through ritual obedience. The cult thrives not on belief, but on contract. So ask yourself, what have you already signed? What clauses bind your days? What oaths drain your blood? What debts chain your hours unborn? You think you are free, yet every click, every pledge, every vow is pact renewed. The golems walk, the glyphs glow, the cube hums, the law holds, and the contract is still alive. The greatest deception is not the lie told, but the truth inverted. A system becomes unbreakable when it convinces its servants that chains are virtue and freedom is sin. The Cabala, in its luminous form, mapped the tree of life, a path of ascent. Each sephira radiating divine quality, wisdom, mercy, beauty. But in shadow, its reflection Gruth, the Clipoth, the Tree of Death. They're the same virtues warped into grotesque parodies, shells feeding on light, husks feeding on imbalance. The architecture remained the same, but morality was inverted. Consider chess, sphere of mercy. In Clipoth, it becomes Gamchakoth, devours, where generosity twists into gluttony. Gavura, sphere of severity, becomes Galakob, burning cruelty. Beauty Tippereth in shadow becomes Thegarian, masks of false suns, dazzling but hollow. The inversion is precise. Every light has husk, every virtue shadow. What was holy becomes monstrous. What was forbidden becomes currency of husks. This inversion does not only rule mystical diagrams, it spills into culture. Knowledge once sacred is branded heresy. Angels once invoked are demonized. Even Lilith, archetype of sovereignty, cast as night monster. Samiel, force of judgment, transformed into venom. The Cabala itself whispered of Sitra Akra, the other side, mirror realm, where every moral law twisted. To step there is to feel gravity reversed, to watch truth rot into poison. The Templars faced this paradox. They sought wisdom beneath Temple Mount, but to church, their discovery was corruption. They were accused of worshipping Baphomet, spitting on cross, embracing shadow. Perhaps lies to justify destruction, or perhaps truth that they touched other side. Inverted morality ensured that even if they sought light, they would be branded children of dark, and the inversion worked. The order burned, and their secrets scattered. Modern systems replicate same inversion. Obedience to law praised as highest good even when law unjust. Rebellion condemned as chaos even when rebellion liberates. Desire branded sin, while repression exalted as holiness. Curiosity mocked as dangerous, ignorance upheld as piety. This is Cabalistic inversion enacted socially. Humanity polishes prison thinking at crown. Sensory fragments reveal inversion. The black cube placed in plaza called art. The graduation cap cube upon head celebrated as achievement. The oath sworn in court believed justice, though it binds in chains. The star painted on flags saluted as patriotism, though it functions as sigil. Symbols inverted, meanings reversed. What enslaves praised, what frees condemned. Dante captured same inversion in Inferno. Sinners suffer not chaos, but mirror of their vices. The lustful swept by winds, not freedom, but bondage to storm. The gluttonous drowning in filth, not abundance, but rot. The traitors frozen in eyes, not movement, but paralysis. Hell itself is morality inverted itch, punishment parody of virtue denied. Occultists knew the danger. Joseph della Reina sought to summon Samael for redemption, yet ended cursed. He thought pact holy, but inversion made it profane. Abraham Ablaphia warned of false lights, visions dazzling but hollow. Even Crowley, centuries later in Cairo, invoked shadows that mocked him with truths inverted. Every adept learns the same law. The other side always mirrors, always inverts, yet inversion hides paradoxical liberation. For husks once faced reveal their origin. The Qliphoth feeds on denial. Its integrate shadow, and it withers. Lilith ceases to terrify when sovereignty embraced. Samael dissolves venom when judgment claimed. The dweller of threshold bows when faced. Inversion imprisons only when unseen. Awareness untwists law, turning sin back into strength. So ask yourself, which virtues in your life are husks disguised? Which desires have been branded sin, though they are compass? Which rebellions demonized, though they are sovereignty? Cabala whispers both ladders. One of ascent, one of husks. Wait. The danger's not husks themselves, but blindness. For when morality is inverted, you may kneel thinking you worship light, while husks feast unseen. Ritual is not confined to candlelit chambers or secret lodges. It hums in every street, every court, every school hall. The Cabala does not need to hide when its symbols have become fabric of society. Humanity, blind to design, repeats its gestures daily, officiating ceremonies older than memory. We imagine rituals belong to priests and sorcerers, but in truth, the world itself has become temple. Freemasonry preserved the transmission openly disguised as fraternity. Their lodges echo with geometry, compass and square, pillars of Boaz and Jachin, checkerboard floors of black and white, the tree of life flattened into architecture. Oaths sworn in dim halls mirror Templar vows, binding initiates with secrecy and word. They believe they chase enlightenment, yet every step repeats Cabalistic rite. The square placed against chest, the blindfold lifted at initiation. The grip exchanged, all gestures coded, all symbols charged. It is ritual repeated for centuries, hidden in plain sight. The courtroom continues the liturgy. Judges wear black robes, symbols of Saturn and cube. Witnesses swear on book, oaths binding souls by word. The congregation rises, sits, speaks in turn. The gavel strikes like ritual hammer, sealing pact. Every trial is mass, every sentence, ritual enforcement. The people call it justice, Cabala whispers. Contract fulfilled, law enforced, ritual complete. Schools initiate children into same system. Bells toll, students march in lines, sit in cubes of desks. Teachers preside, black-gowned, mirroring priests. Graduation crowns them with mortarboard, a cube upon head, Saturn's sigil resting on mind. Families cheer, photographs taken, but the ritual is ancient initiation. Youth pass through circle of system, offered to structure. bound to time. Few question. They kneel willingly, calling it honor. Corporate plazas repeat geometry. Black cubes displayed as sculptures, hexagons in logos, pyramids on towers. Workers pass these sigils daily, eyes absorbing commands unconscious. Office blocks arranged in grids, cubicles stacked like coffins. Contracts signed inside, hours drained, vitality bled. Ritual does not require altar when entire building is shrine. The faithful do not chant, they type, they scroll, they bleed seconds into screen. But the energy flows all the same. Even nations bow to Cabalistic choreography. Flags bear stars, hexagrams raised and saluted. Parades march in circles, anniversaries return annually. Calendars dictating worship. Odes to flag, hand over heart, voices unison. These are rites of binding, not mere patriotism. Humanity believes in politics, but body performs liturgy. The ritual is Saturnian, Cabalistic, systemic. Sensory fragments revealed the ubiquity, clang of school bell echoing like temple gong. The silence of courtroom heavy as crypt. The sight of graduates tossing mortarboard cubes skyward, black rain falling. The metallic weight of coin stamped with sigil, passed hand to hand as if sacrament. The glowing corporate logo, simple shape but charged as glyph. These are not accidents. They are ceremonies coded in design. Dante reflected this in his poem. The damned repeated actions endlessly, unaware they officiated rituals of torment. Gluttons devoured, traitors froze, lustful tossed by winds, each movement a rite, each cycle a liturgy. What hell was not chaos but ceremony calcified? So too is modern life, ritual everywhere, system officiated unconsciously. Occultists whisper truth. Ritual is not superstition, but technology. Every oath, every gesture, every repeated act charges architecture. You may laugh at lodge or temple, but you still swear contracts, still circle cube, still bow to sigil. The world itself is ritual, and you are participant whether or not you believe. So ask yourself, how many rituals did you already perform today? Did you circle screen with finger scrolling, swear silently by clicking I agree, kneel in cube office, rise and sit by bell's command? These are not mundane acts, they are ceremonies feeding system. You are priest of rituals you do not see, and the cult does not need secrecy when you already officiate its mass. Awakening does not arrive as triumph. It begins as fracture, a trembling realization that what you thought were habits are sacraments. That what you thought were contracts are covenants. That what you thought was life is ritual performed on your behalf. The Cabala does not merely describe the world, it writes it. And you, whether believer or skeptic, perform its liturgy with every breath. The first shock is recognition. Its circle drawn in chalk by mystic is same as circle you trace when scrolling screen, and marching in routine when cycling through hours. That cube placed in temple is same as cube on your head at graduation, cube you work within, cube monuments you walk past. That hexagram drawn by adept is same as star stitched on flag, saluted by millions. Once you see, you cannot unsee. The symbols are not rare. They are everywhere. You were efficient all along. The second shock is deeper. You are the ritual. Your blood is ink, your breath chant, your body altar. When you sign contract, you inscribe sigil in flesh. When you repeat thought, you chant invocation. When you obey cycle of time, you orbit shrine. You believed rituals belonged to magicians and robes, but the robe is your skin, the temple your life, the sacrifice your essence. The Templars may have carried Cabala into Europe, but its architecture now carries you. You live inside it, move through its corridors, recite its oaths. Awareness cracks illusion. Rituals you thought were routine reveal themselves as rites feeding system. But awareness also offers key. If you are ritual, you can rewrite ritual. If your body is altar, you can reclaim authorship of offerings. Occultist whisper of conscious sacrifice. The adept who bleeds willingly, who chants knowingly, who faces shadow eyes open, he transforms pact into sovereignty. Blood given with choice sanctifies, not enslaves. Sigil written with awareness liberates, not binds. The husks of clip hath feed on ignorance, but starve when faced. Awakening does not erase architecture, but turns it from prison into map. Sensory glimpses of awakening shimmer. The sudden pause before signing name, recognizing ink as pact. The moment you stop at cube monument and whisper its meaning. The silence in courtroom where robe and gavel feel not holy but Saturnian. The breath you take in defiance of clock, claiming time is yours. These cracks matter. Through them, light floods. Dante knew this path. His pilgrim walked circles of hell, but unlike damned, he did not repeat. He saw, he named, he continued. Awareness freed him to ascend. The sinners became liturgy unconscious. The pilgrim became ritual conscious. That is awakening. To officiate with eyes open, to recognize prison as altar, to choose how to stand. Modern echoes show same. Lucid dreamers shift nightmare into flight by recognizing dream. Activists turn ritual of obedience into ritual of rebellion by naming chains. Artists inscribe symbols anew, charging them with life instead of control. Each act of awareness rewrites liturgy. The Cabala remains, but no longer enslaves when author is awake. But awakening carries burden. What you see, you cannot return. The cube no longer Artida's shrine, the star no longer decoration, it is sigil. The oath no longer routine, it is pact. Awareness strips comfort but grants sovereignty. The choice is not to exit ritual, you cannot. The choice is to officiate unconsciously or consciously, to bleed blindly or to sacrifice by will. So ask yourself, if you are the ritual, will you continue as pawn in liturgy written for you? Or will you claim authorship? Speak words with intention, draw symbols with awareness, bleed only by choice. The Cabala does not vanish, but in awakening, its chains dissolve into keys. You were ritual all along. Now, you must decide, priest or prisoner. The letters still burn, the cube remains sealed. Every circle you walk, every oath you speak, feeds the system the Templars unearthed. You are ritual, whether blind or awake. Comment your thoughts, subscribe, and prepare. The next descent opens the gates of forbidden alchemy and the black sun beyond.